Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there. December 1, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I had this ton of stuff to talk about today, all of it big, all of it consequential, all of it could easily fill an hour in and of itself, each individually. And, of course, news broke in the last 40 minutes, half hour. And that is that Michael Flynn, former National Security Advisor, will, in about a half hour, apparently, plead guilty to a felony count of lying to the Federal Bureau of Investigation while he was the National Security Advisor sitting in the White House, a door away from the President of the United States. So you wonder why Trump always wants to stop this, makes fun of the Russia stuff. Stop it. There's nothing, blah, 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 blah. This is about Russia stuff. Flynn was lying to his own the representatives of his government, a government that he was sworn to oversee the defense of. And he lied about his associations with Russian operatives, as high as the ambassador to the United States. Everybody's saying, and I think this has been rumored, right, for some time. And before this news broke today, Twitter was Twitter about the fact that a big shoe was going to drop. And that it also played the lead story in the New York Times about Trump urging Republican leaders to end the Russian inquiries in Congress, that all of this is of a piece. And it shows not only that they were covering up, there's a desire clear, even to the point of felonious behavior, to cover up what this administration did prior to the election and after with Russian operatives. So this is big, make no mistake. It's also quite clear that a guilty plea from Flynn on a charge like this, an easily proven charge, is an indication that Flynn has been flipped. That had been rumored, people had suggested, mostly because he wanted to save his son. He knows he's going to jail, but he was trying to save his son. Well, I have to tell you, having lived through Watergate, this is happening, even though it seems too slow. This is happening at a really, really fast clip. It really is. And understand that this is an investigation that was started by this administration's own Justice Department. So maybe we're getting closer to where the president's going to try to can the special prosecutor, Mueller, as he gets frighteningly close to the Oval Office. I don't know. Batten down the hatches and secure your seatbelts, because we are in for a wild ride, and it won't be a good one for our country. I'm watching the Republicans try to pass that tax measure yesterday, and the assumption now being that they will be able to somehow cobble some monster bill together to get enough votes, and then that tax bill is going to become law if both the House and the Senate can somehow reconcile their two rather different versions of this despicable piece of legislation masquerading as tax reform. If you think our country is, again, I wonder about people who think that Trump's doing great. I've lived a long time. I have never seen my country in such a shameful, truly shameful position. So, I take no pleasure in this indictment. It's just the beginning. So we now have Trump's former campaign manager and Trump's national security advisor, who Barack Obama, before leaving office, actually told Trump, don't let him into the White House. This guy's a dangerous guy. Well, but he's Trump's dangerous guy. So in he went. I have to tell you, the White House is currently home to a den of thieves and traitors. And that is not overstating the case. Not. Thieves, grifters, and traitors, and felons. So, I'm I'm going to go back to my list. If you guys have something you want to say about Flynn, because we're waiting now. After he appears at 10:30. If any other news comes out of that, we got our eye on it. But I think we pretty much already know what's been happening. We know what he has been charged with because the FBI put those charges out. And they involve flat-out lies to FBI agents who were interviewing him while he was National Security Advisor, a step away from the Oval Office. So I remember saying a long time ago, so many people are going to go to jail. And I stand by that. We got 2 we know right now, maybe 3, going to jail. And Mueller's investigators are just going to keep moving up the food chain. So the New York Times story specifically says that a number of senators, Republican senators, have acknowledged that Donald Trump tried to get them to quash and or speed up congressional inquiries into whether or not his campaign and administration have dirty hands regarding the Russians. Apparently over the summer, according to the Times reporting, the president was urging senior Senate Republicans, including the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, urging them to end these investigations. Now, I'm no lawyer, but it seems to me, that obviously is a breach of the separation of powers, but I don't know that is a crime. The executive branch attempting to pressure the legislative branch, which is looking into in its purview of checks and balances, looking at stuff that's been going on in the executive branch, for the president to try to influence that in any way is so not kosher. What I don't know is it criminal? Is that an effort to impede justice? So I don't know. A lot of people have been suggesting, again, the pundit class, that what the New York Times in this story is doing is teeing up a ball, that there's a much bigger story coming in regard to the president's efforts to get these investigations off his back. The firing of Comey was part of it. Flynn lying was part of the same kind of, all in the same arena. And now Mitch McConnell, Senator Roy Blunt, who is on the Intelligence Committee, have apparently told others that Trump tried to get them to end the investigations. I don't know if that legally that qualifies as obstruction of justice, but it sure seems like it should. If firing Comey to stop his nosing around was said to be potential, obstruction of justice, then I think that this would be as well. So, and as I've said before, because we're all now living through this historic time, and we are living through a low point in American history. Historic and low. Historic and potentially lethally damaging to the country. Hard to believe, but really, I, being the pessimist, truly do believe that we are witnessing the beginning of the end of a great experiment in representative democracy that was called the United States of America. Got to end sometime. I really didn't think it would end this quickly. And what finally brought it crashing down was the election of a black man to the White House, because the resulting backlash gave us this racist, sexist, fascist clown in the presidency, along with his cohort of grifters, thieves, and traitors. And they are doing damage every day. We don't have time to even look at it. What's going on at the EPA today? What kind of deregulations happening there? What's happening at the Department of Education, at Health and Human Services? What is going on with the with this rush to put as many absolutely unqualified right-wing judges into the federal judiciary where they sit for life? Do you recall reading about a guy who worked as a blogger and as a ghost hunter, I believe? He's never been a judge. He's now a federal judge. And that's, the Republicans put him through because they can. Meanwhile, this tax plan is probably going to pass, as I said, And it will have an impact on most Americans, and the impact will be negative. It will have an impact on social services. It kicks the least of us in the teeth, pushes them further down the ladder, while it greases the skids for those at the very top to continue hoarding their unfair share of the nation's wealth. What's amazing to me about all of this is that the Republicans, always unashamed, that the Republicans lie through their teeth, and somehow they manage to keep enough Americans in their thrall to stay in power. That's why I'm fearful about the future. Because a country like ours doesn't work if there is no trust in its institutions, no sense of commonality, of community. And I don't see that that's there at all anymore. So I'm afraid we're going down, guys. So I ain't dancing in the street about Michael Flynn. This thing is so huge. Dorothea writes, Lynn, to quote Dan Rather, I've seen kids spill out their piggy banks and plan their allowance budget with more care than the Republicans in Congress are planning for the future of our U.S. economy. Well, Danny nailed it. It is beyond belief to see them. It has nothing to do with the substance of what's in that bill, except holding on to giving their rich pals what they promised them. It has nothing to do with upholding their oaths of office. And a lot of the Republican senators that we have come to look toward as, potential saviors, I don't know that they're there this time around. As I said yesterday, when Brooke sent in her list of here are the senators who could save us. And I said even yesterday, I don't think so. And by today, I've been proved right already on 3 of them. McCain is a yes. Daines is a yes. Ron Johnson is a yes. All 3 were 3 who were supposed to save us, potentially. Nah. It's going to go. We have a call. Hello, caller.
Hi, Lynn. I work so hard at finding silver lining here. And last night I was at a beautiful holiday party that some liberal friends of mine had, and didn't I get snagged up in the kitchen with 2 Trump followers? And I swear to God, I was having a nice time. It pooped my party. And I know better. I know how to go right above this wave, and whether there's just too much reality or what's going on. Them say he didn't. This is the line you get now. He didn't vote for Trump. He voted against Hillary because she was so blah blah blah. And it suffocated me. So I come home to still, find all the good in the party, blah blah blah, the silver lining. Then I come home and I put on the TV and got sucked into a documentary on HBO called Meth Storm. Whatever you do, this is more devastating than the Vietnam documentary. It is about the efforts of the DEA to clean up. This is predominantly in the South, in Arkansas, and these poor people that are devastated by the drug epidemic and how
Don't worry.
when it was.
Don't worry about any of that anymore because Kellyanne Conway has been put in charge. Don't worry. Don't worry, Kellyanne.
Honey, baby, I'm down. It's hopeless because we're going to worry about sports figures expressing themselves on the field. I take back anything optimistic I ever
right, well,
said.
good. I'm glad you've... Yeah, right. Yeah, no.
But heads up, everybody, save yourself. Do not watch this stuff. Do not watch it because it is...
devastating. And we don't need no more devastation, okay?
Honey, baby, poo-poo. This
right.
is me, the one that's always saying, no, hold on, everybody, blah, blah.
Okay.
God.
All right.
Buddha, Allah, everybody, help us.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
Oh, hang in there. Hang in there. Thank you, Mary. Bye. God, she started as an optimist and ended up in tears. Jesus H. Christ. I'll tell you. It's wonderful, huh? I don't even know. You know what? Yeah, did you see, by the way, Kellyanne Conway has been put in charge of fixing the opioid epidemic. So all I know is, man, I breathed one hell of a sigh of relief upon that news. Whew. I thought Jared was supposed to handle that one. Maybe they peeled that off of Jared to give to her. I don't know. This is a clown car, guys. And anyone who doesn't see that it is, I feel for you because you ain't operating with the brain that God gave you. You are not. You're not putting it to good use. The news that Tillerson was going to get fired broke during our show yesterday, and now we see what that news was about. That was a leak to the New York Times and I think a few other outlets from within the White House because they wanted to essentially shame him out, humiliate him out of office. They don't have the guts to confront him and say, just ain't working, Rex. Thanks for the service. Out you go. No, these are the most despicable people. So they want him out. Well, fine. Then get him out. But that's not the way these guys operate. They hang him out to dry. They hang him out there like they did with Jeff Sessions. Sessions is such an extraordinary creep that he didn't even mind being shamed and humiliated and called an idiot and all that kind of stuff. He hung in there. These are not honorable people. They do not behave in an honorable way. And those who said that John Kelly, the now chief of staff, was supposed to be the adult in the story, this came from Kelly. Kelly, who has yet to apologize to the black congresswoman for a totally fallacious account concerning her behavior. These are bad people. They wouldn't know honor if it was the only thing left in the room with them. They wouldn't recognize what it was. They are not honorable men. And to show how far down we've gone, Roy Moore is going to win. Roy Moore is going to win. There was, one of those magnetic signs outside churches with the clever little things on them. One church in Alabama had a sign up that said, Let me remember. They falsely accused Jesus, too. Vote for Roy Moore. So, he is equated with Jesus, this child molester. That's why I say, for those of you who still have hope, I don't know what it is you're drinking or smoking or anything. I really don't. That people are willing to behave with such dishonor simply to advance an agenda. Amazing. Wasn't there something, by the way, about churches are tax exempt because they are not supposed to engage in political activity? Is that not true? Yes, that is true. Churches owe their tax exempt status to hewing to certain guidelines, one of which is you don't do politics. That church should have its tax-exempt status yanked this afternoon. Because if that ain't politics, I don't know what is. Vote for Roy Moore. But nothing, of course, will happen because in the tax bill that is being dragged through the Senate, there is a something that has nothing to do with taxes. There is something that would allow churches to engage in political activity and retain their tax-exempt status. Now, that's one of the little gems. Another little gem is something that if this bill passes, it will essentially outlaw abortion. It will essentially, there's something else that will destroy the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. This so-called tax bill is going to take insurance coverage away from people. It is going to increase premiums for everybody else who can still afford it. It is going to say a fetus has more legal standing than a pregnant woman. It is going to give the store away to the billionaires whose hands are always all over the Republicans, feeding money into their pockets, whispering into their ears. Our nation is corrupted. I don't even think we have a nation anymore, if you want to know the truth. A nation suggests that people have some kind of a common bond. We don't have that anymore. I really think we should do another civil war. I mean it. And this time, play it out. Finish them up. The scum, let them go. Let them go. I'd be fine with the United States of America with 23 states. We'd have all the good ones. I'm telling you. Okay, we got a call. Hello, caller.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike in D.C.
Hi.
I sort of agree with you about that there will be another civil war, but that's not why I called. I called to say, I'm a lefty liberal and I'm concerned about other people's well-beings, but when does that become enabling? Because we're enabling an entire population to not feel the ramifications of their behavior. They don't vote, or they vote for Neanderthals who want to take away basic rights that they have. Now, granted, we'll get swept under with them, but what more can we do? If these people want this, if they want their kid to not have CHIP, if they want their kid to not have health insurance, if they want their seniors not to have Social Security, why are we trying to convince them otherwise? Maybe it all has to fall on the ground for the Neanderthals to say, wait a second, it was better under the black guy. Isn't that enabling?
They would never, ever acknowledge that. I don't think.
But aren't we enabling them by protecting them from themselves?
How I still don't understand how I'm protecting them from themselves.
Because we try, we read newspapers, we vote, we scream, we yell, we try and convince our family that says Hillary shouldn't have been because she's stuck with a cheating man. We're engaged, and 60% of the population is not. They don't even vote.
Well, that's why I say we can't have a country. I'm not enabling those people. I want to punch every one of them in the head, but I'm not enabling them. There's nothing I can do.
We're protecting them from feeling. But our voting, our party, because we've protected people who don't even vote on our side, have been enabling them. They get everything they want and still get to spout about how Trump is a great man.
Okay, so because
we intervene.
Everything they have, whether they know it or not, came from Democratic policies.
And they don't
Social Security, labor laws. They gave them, a 40-hour work week. Everything that made their lives better came from a Democratic White House or Congress. And
a 5-day work week. Paid vacation.
Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. You could go on and on and on and on.
Child labor.
Okay, but the fact that then I think the problem is Democrats don't know how to toot their own horn, apparently. Well, I don't know. I really don't know anymore. But when you live with a lot of idiots, this, I guess, happens. I don't know. I don't understand people, I guess. I just don't get it. I never have. But anyone who thinks our country is not going down is delusional. I
think the Civil War is going to be about rural versus city, because people in city are underrepresented and people in the rural areas
are overrepresented. That's right. The way the Founding Fathers set up the, through compromise, created the country. It worked better then when it was a more agrarian nation and not as urban. But no, it doesn't work anymore. It's not working for us. I don't think
race didn't play into that either, because there were always more black people in cities. So that's also a racial reason that they did that too, or at least why they're doing it now.
Yeah.
Because you say Detroit, people don't hear city dwellers.
They see
hear black people.
That's right. Right. Oh, we're doomed.
So I'm at a loss of what I'm supposed to do beside vote and be informed.
You keep
what
doing.
What else am I supposed to do?
Well, you keep doing that because you are living as a good citizen and doing what you can. And I don't think there's anything else. I don't know what else you can do. But come the war, you'll be on the right side. I wish I were kidding.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you, too. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And now Cornyn, who is the GOP whip in the Senate, says they have the votes. So there you go, guys. Did you see this thing that CNN was delighting in running yesterday? And I don't blame them because it was beautiful. It was Lindsey Graham somewhere in Congress being interviewed and very hotly saying, I'm sick and tired of everybody suggesting that our president is some kind of a kook or a nut job, that he is somehow inept or ineffective. And media has been, so it was like, you guys have to stop casting aspersions on our president. And then what CNN did is they let him talk, and then they found video of Lindsey Graham, the same senator, saying, I'm not even going to try to get into Donald Trump's head. I don't think there's enough room in there. The guy's a kook. The guy's crazy. The guy is incapable. Right. So this is what I mean when I talk about dishonorable men. An honorable man would not have said the one thing and then turned around and said the other. At some point, he was being disingenuous. Which time was it? These are liars. The best of them. John McCain, our hero, has voted for this tax bill. And you voted, some of you, I don't know, maybe, for a senator, Toomey, who has been the biggest cheerleader of this measure in the Senate. He gets a hard on just thinking about it. So showing how different things used to be, something else came by my purview, or I don't even know if that's proper English. And it was an old interview between Barbara Walters and Bette Midler. This had to be from what? I don't know. The 90s? Maybe? Maybe the 90s. And it's on Twitter. It's all over the internet, maybe, if you want to try to find it. And in it, this interview, for some reason, Bette Midler decides to tell a little story about when Geraldo Rivera came to interview her. And so she tells Walter, so yeah, the crew came to my house, and Geraldo and the producer told the crew, to set up, and then they sort of, I only saw it once, so I don't know if anyway, they sort of like pushed her into her bathroom. So we got two guys here, Geraldo and his producer, and Bette Midler. She said, in recounting the story, they pushed her up against the wall and broke two, or whatever, what are those called? Poppers. Poppers, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know what they are, I'm really not sure what that drug is, but it makes you not yourself, I'll tell you that. So they she's up against the wall, they put poppers under her nose, and then they're all over her, groping her. Midler tells this story on national television, obviously, in a Barbara Walters interview. And you tell me what happened. For one thing, as she tells it, she and Barbara Walters they're laughing a lot. And it seems so odd. They're talking about this horrible assault on her, and they're laughing. And then it occurred to me as I watched, oh yeah, that's what women in my generation, because they are, that's what women did. You told each other the stories, and you laughed about what jerks these guys are. But you didn't expect anything to change. It just is was what was. And in fact, Walter started to get a little uncomfortable and says at one point something like, well, let's move on. But they're laughing. Except Midler at one point looks like she's brushing a possible tear from her eye as she's laughing. So something else we have not talked about, but I would like to for a minute. A few people have pointed it out. So you look at some of these guys who've gone down now. And certainly Geraldo deserves to go down. Matt Lauer, New York Times reporter, Glenn Thrush, political reporter Mark Halperin, and author, Roger Ailes, O'Reilly, Charlie Rose. Who are these guys? These are the gatekeepers of the media for what stories you hear, what narratives you hear. These are the big guys who decide what the first story is, the second story, and the third, who gets interviewed. And now we know something about all these guys. We know that women to them are objects to be acted upon. And so with that in mind, and you go back to how they covered Hillary Clinton running for the presidency of the United States, you get a different kind of perspective. The famous, infamous Matt Lauer town hall thing where he interviewed Trump separately in front of a group of people and then interviewed Hillary Clinton separately. If you'll recall, I remember I was outraged by it. He didn't let Hillary Clinton get a word out of her mouth. Every time she said two words, he'd be like interrupting her and saying, well, what if, and this and that. He was all over her. And at one point he asked her a question like, how do we get our hands around the Iranians and the this and the that? And he said, and be quick. We don't have a lot of time. It was an outrage. And then he did Trump. And it was like two guys pretty comfortable with each other. He let Trump get away with lies. Never jumped in and said, but that's not true. Trump saying, I oppose the Iraq war. Lauer let it go. So these are men who have a great deal of power, who are more comfortable with each other and in the company of men. And a powerful woman like Hillary Clinton, frankly, they don't like. You think that doesn't infect how they interview her, how they refer to her? Halperin famously referred to her as, let me get this quote right. That's not it. Why can't I find my stuff? Shit. Excuse me. That's just frustration. Here. He referred to her as prideful, aggrieved, confused, a Napoleon in a navy pantsuit, and gumball-sized fake pearls. That's how this guy, with a great deal of power, presented Hillary Clinton to the nation. And this is the guy who, when alone with women who he worked with, pressed his erect penis against them. Women don't have much of a chance, do they? Kathleen writes, Dear Lynn, your commentary is depressingly accurate. Through all of this, I have asked myself why those of us who see the disaster happening are unable to respond. I can only say that the biggest reason is that we have no leaders. look at us, intelligent, involved, and active citizens who are utterly impotent as our government unravels and the least of our citizens are injured beyond repair. How do we organize ourselves? How do we voice our collective rage? Well, you do remember at the beginning of the Trump presidency, we did organize. We came out into the streets in numbers that blew people away. But guess what? In Germany, they did the same thing initially. And then they just got tired. They saw these things just kept happening, and they could be in the streets, and they could be doing what they did, and it didn't seem to make any difference. But we do belong back in the streets. There's no doubt about it. Somebody, I'm not sure who, on Twitter the other day, who has a grandmother who was a Holocaust survivor. She's still alive. She's in her 90s. He said that she keeps saying, you know, I said a few years ago, it just makes me sick that those who did survive, who are now so old, are having to see this play out again because they've been here. They've been in a democracy that started to move so far to the right and started trafficking in big lies, that started burning books, going after journalists, that started demonizing whole groups of people, that worked to divide Germans against Germans. And this guy said his grandmother is looking at this again. And she said to him, this is how it happened. This is exactly how it happened. One little thing after another, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and you don't know, and you can't, and it's just no stopping it. You think I'm being... what? Am I exaggerating? I say, now that we're into listening to victimized people, I say, listen to those who witnessed what happened in Germany. And you tell me if they, to a man and a woman, don't say exactly what that grandmother said. This is exactly how it happened. I so fear for my son. I fear for all the young people I know, because they are not going to have the country I was so lucky to live in. And those who don't recognize that it is literally being destroyed and morphed into a monster, morphed into a fascist, racist, xenophobic, dangerous, rogue nation, they're not paying attention. I am not being overly dramatic. Talk to a Holocaust survivor if you can find any more of them. They're around. They're very old. Some of them are amazingly still in good shape. I've talked to them because I do know some. And they all say the same thing. I can't believe I'm seeing this again. For them, it is a deja vu that is, there aren't words. And I weep that they had to see this again. I'm not suggesting it ends exactly as it did for them, but if you look at how it happened in Germany, guys, it looks like a friggin' carbon copy of what Trump's administration and his Republican Party are willing to do. We have a call. All right. Caller, go ahead, please.
Okay. Clarence.
Yeah.
How's that old saying go? Death by a million cuts or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one way to fight all this nonsense. Everybody, last year, like, well, I'm not going to bring up Trump during the Thanksgiving dinner, just trying to save the arguments and the bickering and stuff with family members and friends. That was a mistake. Can't do that anymore. It doesn't matter what the consequences is. Like the Twitter, the Facebook, you just can't let stupid stuff stand.
No.
Always fight it. Doesn't matter who puts it up there.
Always fight it.
Always fight it.
Right.
People always say, well, I had a conversation with a couple of physics students during Thanksgiving dinner, and the one who knows me, it was her boyfriend was the other one, said, yeah, she calls me Uncle Clarence. He always has something, fight. He always puts up something, and the other kid said, well, I don't, because you're not going to change these people's mind. I said, no, that's not your objective. Your objective is to put up the counter argument, on Facebook and Twitter. Don't let that argument stand by itself, because it becomes the truth to a lot of people's minds. Like the other person said, not everybody's paying attention and involved, but if you are paying attention and involved, you always counter argue. In the bar, at the grocery store, doesn't matter when somebody says something stupid, you throw the counter argument up there. That's it's like death by a. That's how they got to the position they are in now. That's how they got the power.
Right. That's right.
It was all these little small things built up, and I think that's one way to fight it. And the fact that we have Twitter and Facebook and all this stuff, that might be a counter to how the Holocaust happened. You can inform faster and easier and try to stop it.
Yeah, except that we on Twitter and Facebook tend to self-segregate so that we don't. We only listen to people who are echoing our own thoughts, generally speaking, right?
Yes, and that was something that I had a conversation with about my little sister, who was deleting people left and right when Trump won.
Yeah.
And I said, I get deleted. I said, but I don't delete. Bring your argument in. And a lot of people, I'd say about 50% of my conservative people that I had on, they either don't respond to me anymore. You know what I mean? But they're still there. I'll respond to them. I can see their stuff, but they don't respond to me because I have the better argument.
Yeah, but do you think they're actually reading what you say, or they see Clarence and they just go right past you? They don't want to see.
The conservative people, those friends, I got to put a quote, Facebook friends, they're probably not reading it, but it's still there in the comments. So other people are reading, and you could tell that people are reading it who think like you do because they could hit that like button. You could tell.
Okay.
It's like, it's almost, and this happened to me, like at a grocery store. Oh, Clarence, I wish I could do that. I'm afraid of this and that, and this might hurt this, and that might do this to me. I know I've lost business because of my views on, because I know it. Yeah, but I'm willing to sacrifice that, either get more business or just be poor. Doesn't matter, because I think it's bigger and important. Having friends and family, it's way too important.
No,
and that's the thing. You got to be willing to sacrifice friends, family, whatever, so we don't end up in a fascist state.
If you're a patriot, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're seeing families pulled apart is exactly what happened in the Civil War, right?
Mm-hmm.
Families are ripped apart. We are in a kind of civil war now, and our side ain't winning. Let's just put it that way. Our side is not winning.
Yeah, we're not fighting. We're not fighting.
We're not fighting. We have the potential. We have more people, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we got a lot of people who don't vote, who don't pay attention, who argue amongst themselves instead of seeing the common threat, the big picture. I don't know. I just don't know. It's been nice knowing y'all. That's all I want to say.
Well, as long as you stay on the air, we'll still be around.
No, they're going to have to, pull me kicking and screaming off the air, which they very well might. Think of all the stations that have thrown me out.
Yeah. I don't know where you started. I think it was WTAE,
It was WTAE.
Yeah. And I started calling you back during the first Gulf War,
So it was in the 80s. Wasn't it?
Yeah, late 80s, yeah.
Yeah, it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, pushing 30 years here. 30.
We're old.
Pushing up to 30 years.
We're old, Father William.
Yeah.
Okay. Clarence, always good to hear from you. Thank you.
Same here. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Truck free.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
It's impossible, isn't it?
It sure is.
Okay, I guess that's it. Let me get to some of your... Chuck writes, nothing is certain beyond the 2018 election, and a smart Republican would move forward on the assumption, likely or not, that there is only 1 year to push through as much of their agenda as possible. If I were the Republicans, I would push through change and make it stick. Last year, after Trump was elected, Bernie Sanders warned that we would have to be vigilant, reading all of the small print, because he was certain that Republicans would make sure that their legislation was irreversible. We are seeing that now in this tax plan, which has provisions for the next 2 decades. Oh, dear. Yeah. Okay, so our only hope now is that they'll not be able to reconcile their 2 bills. And it is a possibility, but I don't pretend to know. So if you were feeling so happy about Flynn, who I suspect at this point has now pleaded guilty, he hasn't happened yet. Temper your joy by keeping your eyes on the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is terrifying. As I said, just ask a Holocaust survivor. And I don't care if you're not supposed to equate anything in America with Nazis. But now we have Nazis. Nazis in the White House. We got Nazis like a David Duke, just out of his mind with delight at the President of the United States. We've got nationalists and haters, white nationalists and haters, out of the woodwork, do we not? It's like, if you ever wanted to time travel back to the ends of the Weimar Republic, I think you're doing it, frankly. That's it for me, and what a delightful way to end a week. I don't know what else to say. It's not my intent to depress you, but it is my intent always to speak the truth as I see it. Okay? I love you all. Have a good weekend, and see you Monday. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.